Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Lanice. If you're new here, welcome. I post videos on spirituality, motivation, blending them together so that you can get the best benefit out of them. Let's get started. This week's video is going to be on shadow work. We're going to talk about what is shadow work, and then I'm going to give you guys some of my most current and beneficial tips on how you can conduct shadow work on your own. Shadow work is a new term in the spiritual community. It has to do with self-healing, going towards your shadows in order to heal yourself, and then transcending and transforming through that process. Your shadows can be trauma, any adversity that you have faced in your life. I just want to start off with saying I am not a licensed therapist at all. So these are tips you can take with a grain of salt. And this is what has worked for me on my shadow work journey. Tip number one is therapy or self-therapy. Now, I add this one because what we're talking about here is shadows, trauma, anything that hurt you psychologically and scarred you for life. So I add tip number one because what we're dealing with here is adversity. And when it comes to adversity, only you can decide if therapy's right for you, if self-therapy would be better for you. Some people are more do it themselves. Some people are more, I need help from others because I need to tackle this huge problem, and it would really help if I had the weight off my shoulders to be able to do so. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew those are your two options. But as of right now, at this point in my life, I feel comfortable with doing self-therapy. I have tried both before, and I am just at a level space where I can heal my adversity on my own. Now, for some people, and I totally understand because I was there too, having a therapist can be so beneficial and so rewarding. So make sure you think about all of your options and what you're provided to then make that decision. But self-therapy can just be going down the path of self-healing, going down the path of self-love, which I've made a video on. I will link it below. Watching videos on YouTube. They can be watching motivational speeches, reading books about self-healing that will then transcend you through your shadow work journey. So step number two for shadow work is when you think of your shadows or when you think of your adversity, what you want to do is you want to ground yourself. I read a book called The Body Keeps Score on trauma, and I will link it below. It's amazing. I actually listened to it on Audible. What they said is when you think about your trauma, you want to ground yourself. And all that is where am I on this planet? You want to tether yourself to this reality. As many of you know, I got into a car accident in 2017 and broke my pelvic bone in 3 places and ruptured my spleen. I couldn't walk for 3 months, and then I had to relearn how to walk. That was a trauma, and I had PTSD from it, which it was very hard to drive directly after. But I also had a life transformation process that happened after that accident because it was so traumatic. So I read that book, The Body Keeps Score, and when you ground yourself before you think of your trauma, so for me, I'll ground myself before I think of my accident. I will sit here or anywhere, and I will think of my clothes against the floor, and I will just pay attention to that contact. Because what they say in the book, The Body Keeps Score, is if you think about any of your trauma without grounding yourself, you almost time travel back there in your mind, and that can re-traumatize you because if you don't know the difference between a memory and the reality that you're in, then it can become very damaging. So whenever you do shadow work, you're dealing with your adversities. And so what you want to do is you want to ground yourself so that you don't sink too deep in the memory that you get confused about what's reality and what isn't. Tip number 3 on how to conduct shadow work is something that I like to use that is called the Swish Pattern, which was invented by Tony Robbins. And I will link below the Tony Robbins video so that you guys can go watch that. Of course, I'm putting my own spin on it, but I want to give credit where credit is due, and I also freaking love Tony Robbins. And when he invented it, it was more to get rid of negative habits. So use this pattern however you need to. I use it for getting rid of anxiety and stopping myself from thinking about my trauma with the car accident and everything. I had to relearn how not to be worried in the car, how not to have those intrusive thoughts of getting into another car accident. So what the swish pattern does is you use your hands. It's very hands-on. One hand will be the reality that you live in right now, and the other hand will be the reality that you want. So for instance, I had anxiety in the car when I would drive and I would think about my accident. And on the other hand, you see the reality that you do want, where you're driving and you're confident, and instead of being worried about another accident, you feel more confident because you went through an experience like that and you won't ever let that happen again. And so the way that the swish pattern works is you imagine this reality that you live in, you picture it as a bigger picture right in front of you. Think of it as red. Kind of shadow your life right now in a red color. Then what you want to do is on this hand, you want to picture this hand as green. And you want to see the colors in this reality that you want as vivid and bright, right? But this reality is right in front of you, right? This reality you don't want is right here. So the swish pattern goes like this. You take this hand and you swoosh it up, and this one falls out. You essentially break through the reality that you don't want, and you see the reality that you want become vivid. So it goes like, and that one goes down, and you break through the mold. See it really breaking through. Okay, let's do it one time, and then if you're really curious, you can find that link and watch Tony Robbins' video. We have our hand here that has the reality we don't want, and we have the reality that we do. So on the count of 3, you're gonna swoosh. You're really gonna focus on bringing this green reality up and imagining it. So 1, 2, 3, swoosh. See it. And the more times you do that, the more you exercise that muscle to quell intrusive thoughts. Tip number 4 for shadow work is notice when you are judging yourself, critiquing yourself, shaming yourself, or blaming yourself. And what you want to do is you want to create replacement thoughts. So when you shame yourself, hear it, and then establish the best friend brain, which I've talked about in prior videos, the ones on self-love, which I will link below. And I got that idea from a channel, Charisma on Command, which I will link below. But instead of hearing the shame, what would your best friend say if they heard you say that? Now, I'm hoping you're choosing the healthiest best friend that you have. If you don't have one, I will be that voice for you. And I will tell you that whatever you went through, it was not your fault. And you do not deserve to shame and blame yourself for that experience. So you think about what your best friend would say to you, and then you slowly but surely replace those old thoughts with new ones so that you can then transcend past your shadows. Tip number 5 is ask yourself where your beliefs came from. Now, the reason this tip is included in shadow work is because a lot of our beliefs about ourselves are tied into our shadows. For instance, one of my friends, a lot of people thought she was annoying. And so she adopted that, I'm annoying. And it turns out that she would talk about her trauma a lot, and that would annoy people around her. And they just were like, you're so annoying. You're so annoying, to the point where she believed it. So the thing is you need to analyze the beliefs that you hold about yourself that might be damaging, that just any belief that is toxic, that's where you start. And then you can find that the root sometimes is webbed into your shadows, because what I told her is I was like, so-and-so, where did that belief start? When was the first time you thought you were annoying? Because odds are, if it's something negative like that, if it's something negating, it usually came from an outside voice. And the sad part is the outside voices that are connected to our shadows are the worst. So think about the negative things people have also said to you when you've come to them with your adversity about your car accident or your adversity about any struggle you may have had in your life. Those things can be very impactful. Make sure you're not adopting those beliefs. Make sure you're not adopting those things. And it can be very easy to do that. But once we reverse engineer ourselves and we realize, hey, somebody told me this at my weakest point, that's why I think that. And then you can let go of that belief, and letting go is key to shadow work. Tip number 6 is getting to know yourself through self-exploration. That is how you heal your shadows. Because the more you are self-aware, then the more you realize where things connect back to your adversity and your trauma. So my best tips on this is to get to know yourself through psychology, through quizzes like the attachment style quiz. So everybody has an attachment style. I've brought this up in other videos. And your attachment style is what kind of attachment you formed as a child. And there are healthy ones and unhealthy ones, and because we're talking about shadows, these are some things that could be connected back to your childhood. So knowing your attachment style is key to transcend through your shadows. Also, there's something called the ACE, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience Test, and I will link these tests down below. That one rates your childhood trauma. I will be honest, the test is kind of triggering, so make sure you're in the right mental frame to be able to take the test. But once you know your ACE score, then you can work on yourself and come face to face with your trauma. Remember to ground yourself and give yourself that love and that healing that you were denied. Also, you can take another test, which I will link down below, called the Oceans, which is actually a test that is well received in the scientific community. This test breaks down your personality into the acronyms of OCEAN, and it basically will show you if you're an introvert or an extrovert, how you handle stress, use your creative energy, how much anger you have, how much you trust people. So getting to know these aspects of your shadow self will really evolve you and transcend you into your highest nature. You can further your shadow work journey and get into spirituality and understanding your birth chart. I am an astrologer and I've been practicing for a long time now. And so I do things like read people's natal charts. If you'd like to look me up on Instagram or TikTok where I talk about astrology more, but I will link the best free astrology website below. It is a lot of reading, but you get to know yourself through the habits of self-discovery. Tip number 7 is use creative outlets. Do art therapy in whatever way that looks like to you. Art therapy is actually a field of therapy, and you can kind of do it on your own. You could also seek art therapy advice by somebody who is licensed for that, but I like to just do drawings. I actually have a little bit of health anxiety, and so when COVID hit, I was very worried about the coronavirus. And so what I would do as an act of self-care and shadow healing and healing myself from those habits of health anxiety is I would draw pictures of myself and I would color them with a protected shield. I would color them with yellow. I don't know why that was the color that I used. And write, I am protecting myself, I am healing myself, I am transcending through these experiences. Use art or a creative outlet to work through your shadows. A lot of people will do drawings that are very shadowy in essence, just maybe might look kind of tormented, but that is actually an act of healing for that artist. People make music to heal, people write books to heal, people act to heal, people sing to heal. Use some form of creative outlet and expression to heal yourself from your shadows. Tip number 8 is be kind to yourself and make sure to reward yourself as you work on this shadow work journey. Reward yourself by giving yourself praise, by telling your brain, body, and soul, thank you. Thank you for undergoing this shadow work process. Thank you for all you have endured, and all of the adversity in your life that you have faced has built you into this person, and hold space for yourself to honor that. Be kind to yourself. The world is already so cruel, so you don't have to be another layer that adds to that cruelty. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If this video gave you value, consider giving it a like, ringing the bell as I post videos every Monday. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.